The sun dipped low in the evening sky, casting golden light through the Bodhi tree's vast canopy. Disciples gathered silently around Buddha, their anticipation palpable. A cool breeze whispered through the grove, stirring the leaves gently. The air carried a stillness. Holding in-spoken questions tightly, Buddha sat cross-legged on the mossy ground, his face serene. His gaze swept over his disciples, pausing on one trembling figure. He gestured to the nearby stream where water flowed over jagged rocks and fine sand. "Leela," he continued, "do you see the stream as it chooses its path among the obstacles and soft grounds?" Leela nodded, the gentle murmurs of the stream soothing her restless thoughts. "Rise, child, and speak of your heart's burden." The young monk looked up, tears brimming, his voice trembling like autumn leaves. "Master, I fear revealing my failures deeply." Buddha's eyes reflected compassion, drawing the monk closer with quiet reassurance. "There is no failure when truth resides within," Buddha spoke. The grove became even quieter. As all leaned closer to hear, Buddha gestured to a nearby clay pot, weathered but still intact, resting beside a fountain. "Do you see this pot, formed by fire and shaped with care?" His hand rested lightly on the vessel, its surface rough and unadorned. The young monk nodded uncertainly, his brow furrowing in thought. "Yes, Master, but what has this pot to teach of vulnerability?" Buddha smiled faintly, his voice calm and steady like a river. "This pot once faced fire, fierce and consuming, yet it did not shatter." His fingers traced the pot's uneven rim, emphasizing its imperfections. "Even with its flaws, it holds water, fulfilling its purpose with grace and resilience." The monk's gaze fixed on the pot, his trembling hands clenching into fists. "But, Master, I am not like this pot. My flaws are unbearable, breaking me apart entirely." Buddha's expression remained tender, unshaken by the monk's pain-filled declaration. He lifted the pot gently, holding it for all to see. "Shall I break this pot deliberately? Shatter it into pieces before you all?" The disciples exchanged glances, their curiosity tinged with unease at his unexpected question. "Master, it would no longer serve its purpose if broken," one disciple interjected hesitantly. Buddha's gaze rested on the speaker briefly, wisdom glinting in his eyes. "Indeed, yet within brokenness lies an unseen possibility for transformation," he replied softly. With measured deliberation, Buddha brought the pot down forcefully upon a stone. The sound of shattering clay rang through the grove, jolting the disciples. The young monk gasped, his face pale, as the pot lay in jagged fragments. Buddha crouched beside the scattered shards, gently picking one up. "Look closely at this piece," he said, holding it to the fading light. "Does its separation negate its value or its purpose?" The disciples leaned in, their eyes fixed on the shard. As its edges glimmered faintly, Buddha gestured toward a passing artisan, whose hands were stained with traces of gold. The man approached respectfully, carrying a small vial of gold lacquer. "This artisan practices the ancient art of kintsugi, repairing pottery with golden seams," Buddha explained, motioning for the artisan to begin. With delicate precision, the artisan joined the fragmented pieces, each seam now adorned with shimmering gold. As the vessel began to take shape, gasps of awe rippled through the gathered disciples. The once shattered pot now gleamed, its imperfections highlighted with radiant beauty. Buddha lifted the transformed pot, turning it for all to see its golden veins. "This is vulnerability's power," he said. "In our brokenness, we reveal our capacity for transformation, connection, and beauty." The young monk's eyes filled with tears anew, but this time they carried hope, not despair. "Master, does this mean my flaws, too, can create something meaningful and beautiful?" His voice quavered with newfound courage, his posture less burdened. Buddha placed the pot in the monk's hands. His touch a silent reassurance. Your flaws are not burdens, but doorways to greater understanding and compassion, Buddha said. Do not fear your truth. The grove seemed to breathe in unison, the disciples' hearts swelling with the weight of the teaching. One older disciple asked, Master, how do we find the courage to face our brokenness without retreating into fear? Buddha turned his gaze toward the river, its waters catching the last rays of sunlight. Like the river shapes stones over time, courage is honed through patience and trust, he replied. He rose slowly, his movements fluid as the river itself, radiating presence. We are all vessels, tested by life's fires, cracked and mended countless times, Buddha continued. The disciples watched him intently, their minds and hearts opened like lotus blooms. Each seam of gold tells a story of resilience, a testament to love's transformative power, Buddha said softly. The young monk cradled the pot closer, his hands steady now, as though anchoring himself. Master, your words have given me strength to reveal my true self, he said earnestly. Buddha's smile warmed him like the gentle glow of a lantern in the dark. Strength lies in embracing vulnerability, not in denying it, Buddha said. The disciples dispersed into the evening, their steps lighter, their spirits buoyed by the teaching. Alone beneath the Bodhi tree, Buddha closed his eyes, his face serene, as though communing with the stars. The young monk paused briefly, placing the repaired pot carefully at the base of the tree before departing. Its golden seams caught the moonlight, an enduring symbol of hope and transformation. Another day, another grove, the air filled with the scent of blooming lotuses and the gentle hum of cicadas. Buddha sat by a still pond, its surface reflecting the sky's shifting hues as the sun rose. Disciples gathered around him, their robes rustling faintly like whispers of the wind. A young acolyte approached cautiously, her steps hesitant, her gaze heavy with unspoken sorrow. Buddha looked at her with serene compassion, inviting her to speak of her burden. The acolyte lowered herself to the ground, trembling, her voice barely audible as she began. Master, I feel abandoned by love's embrace, she said. Her words hung in the air, poignant and raw, drawing the attention of the disciples surrounding them. Buddha gazed at the water, its stillness rippling faintly as he dipped a finger into it. Love is neither possession nor permanence, he said, his voice carrying the wisdom of time itself. He cupped a lotus flower, lifting it gently from the water for all to see. The flower's petals were soft and radiant, untouched by the mud from which it emerged. This lotus grows from darkness, yet it blooms freely, unafraid to reveal its essence, Buddha said softly. The acolyte wiped away tears, her voice trembling as she asked, Master, how can I bloom when love abandons me? Buddha turned to her, his eyes filled with a tender understanding that seemed infinite. Love does not abandon, child. It transforms and guides, like the water shaping the roots of this lotus. He placed the flower back onto the pond, watching it float gracefully, carried by the gentle currents. The mud that surrounds the roots nourishes the lotus, granting it strength to rise above, Buddha continued. A disciple nearby asked hesitantly, Master, does this mean suffering is necessary for growth? Buddha's gaze met his, unwavering and full of serenity, as he gestured to the reflection on the water. Suffering reveals truths hidden within. It is the soil from which compassion and resilience grow like petals unfolding, he replied. The disciples murmured among themselves, their minds churning with the depth of his words. Seeking understanding, Buddha turned his attention back to the acolyte, whose sorrow now carried faint traces of curiosity. He reached into the pond, drawing another lotus closer, its reflection shimmering beneath its petals. Do you see how the reflection dances with the light, shaping itself without resistance? Buddha asked gently. The acolyte leaned forward, studying the flower and its mirrored image. Her brow furrowed slightly. Yes, Master, but the reflection is not the lotus. It is fleeting, impermanent, she said hesitantly. Buddha nodded, his smile warm yet subtle, as though cradling a secret joy. Precisely, child. Love is much like this reflection. Unbound, shifting, yet always present in different forms, he explained. A ripple disturbed the pond's surface as a bird dipped its beak, scattering the lotus reflection momentarily. Does this mean love's impermanence is its true nature? The acolyte asked, her voice tinged with wonder. Buddha's gaze followed the bird as it flew away, its wings beating rhythmically against the air. Impermanence reveals love's depth, its ability to adapt and endure. Like the lotus thriving despite the mud, he replied. Another disciple interjected, his tone cautious yet curious. Master, how do we embrace love's impermanence without fearing its loss? Buddha's smile deepened as he gestured to the pond, its surface calming once more as the ripple faded. Fear arises from attachment. To embrace impermanence is to accept love as it flows freely, unconfined by desire, he said. The disciples fell silent, contemplating his words, the grove filled only with the sound of rustling leaves and birdsong. The acolyte's eyes glistened as she gazed at the lotus floating serenely, her heart stirring with newfound clarity. Master, your teaching eases my sorrow. I wish to bloom as the lotus does, she said earnestly. Buddha placed a hand lightly on her shoulder, his touch radiating comfort and strength in equal measure. You bloom by revealing yourself fully, unafraid of the mud that nourishes your roots, he said gently. Another ripple crossed the pond's surface, carrying the lotus closer to the acolyte's reflection as she watched. The disciples observed silently, their hearts touched by the acolyte's vulnerability and Buddha's timeless wisdom. A soft breeze stirred the grove, carrying with it the fragrance of the blooming flowers and the acolyte's renewed hope. Buddha rose slowly, his movements flowing like the wind, his presence grounding yet ethereal. He gestured toward the grove's path, inviting all to walk alongside him as the day's light grew brighter. Let us move forward, carrying love like a lotus blooming with resilience. Free from attachment yet rooted in truth, Buddha said. The disciples followed, their steps lightened by his guidance, their hearts blooming like flowers touched by sunlight. The acolyte lingered briefly at the pond's edge, her reflection mingling with the lotus on the water's surface. She touched the pond lightly with her fingertips, causing ripples to spread outward, carrying the lotus farther along. Thank you, Master, she whispered, her voice steady and clear as she turned to join the others. Buddha walked ahead, his silhouette framed by the glow of the rising sun, his teachings woven into the very air. The grove remained silent, the pond still, as though absorbing the echoes of wisdom shared within its embrace. Another day had passed, yet the disciples carried its lessons with them, finding beauty in vulnerability. Another day, another riverside, where the current murmured its endless song and the trees swayed gently under the morning sun. Buddha sat upon a rock near the riverbank, his robes blending harmoniously with the earth's hues. Disciples gathered closely, their faces reflecting both reverence and the yearning for understanding. An elder disciple stepped forward, his gait unsteady, the weight of years and questions etched upon his features. Master, he began, his voice trembling, I have sought wisdom tirelessly, yet enlightenment eludes me. Why do I feel so inadequate? Buddha regarded him with eyes that seemed to encompass the vastness of the river and time itself. He pointed toward the flowing water, its surface sparkling under the gentle light of the rising sun. Look at the river, ever moving, yet it carries no regrets of the bends it follows, Buddha said softly. The elder disciple turned his gaze to the river, watching as the current flowed ceaselessly, shaping and reshaping the banks. Master, What does the river teach? Then, of failure and seeking that feels unending? He asked, his voice heavy. Buddha's voice carried the tranquility of the river, patient and unfaltering. Failure is but a ripple, momentary and fleeting, yet it spreads lessons far beyond its origin, he replied. Another disciple asked, her voice curious yet pensive, but Master, how do we discern wisdom from the ripples of failure? Buddha rose slowly, his movements fluid as the river, and picked up a small, smooth stone. Observe this stone, he began, holding it high so all could see. Unremarkable, yet shaped by time and the current. With deliberate intent, Buddha cast the stone into the water, watching the ripples radiate outward in widening circles. The ripples do not endure, but the stone's passage leaves an imprint on the riverbed's story, Buddha explained. The elder disciple furrowed his brow, his mind turning over the meaning behind the master's words. Does this mean our failures contribute to wisdom even if their effects are impermanent? He asked hesitantly. Buddha smiled faintly, his eyes reflecting the understanding of countless lifetimes. Yes, for wisdom is born from impermanence and the courage to embrace its fleeting nature, Buddha replied gently. The disciples sat in thoughtful silence, their hearts attuned to the profound simplicity of his teaching. Buddha bent down, scooping a handful of water from the river, watching it drip between his fingers. Each drop is part of the whole, inseparable yet unique, just as each failure shapes the flow of your journey, he said. The elder disciple nodded slowly, the furrows in his face softening as realization dawned upon him. A young monk spoke hesitantly, his voice uncertain yet earnest. Master, what of those who fear casting their stones, fearing the ripples they may create? Buddha's gaze turned to the far side of the river, where the forest cast dappled shadows on the ground. Fear binds the heart, preventing it from discovering the vastness of its potential, he said softly. He gestured to the riverbank, where tiny shoots of grass clung to the edge, unshaken by the current. Even the smallest root has the courage to grow. Unafraid of the river's embrace, he continued. The young monk's eyes widened, his heart quickening with the clarity of the teaching's depth. Master, are you saying courage comes not from certainty but from trust in life's flow? He asked. Buddha nodded, his smile radiant like the dawn breaking gently over the horizon. Courage is the trust that the river carries you, even as it changes and unfolds, Buddha replied. The disciples exchanged glances, their thoughts alight with the significance of his words, each understanding it in their own way. The elder disciple lowered his head, his hands trembling slightly, as he spoke again. Master, I fear the end of my journey approaches, and still I am no closer to the truth. Buddha moved closer, placing a hand on the elder disciple's shoulder, his touch as steady as the earth beneath them. Truth is not a destination, it is the river itself, guiding and shaping you with every step, he said gently. The river seemed to sing in harmony with Buddha's words, its melody carrying an unspoken promise of renewal. Another disciple asked, her voice firm yet thoughtful. Master, how do we carry the river's teachings into the world beyond this grove? Buddha turned to her, his eyes gleaming with quiet joy as he gestured toward the flowing current. Like the river, flow with humility, carve paths of compassion, and nourish all who cross your journey, he said. The disciples sat in hushed reverence, their hearts swelling with both humility and resolve. Buddha stepped into the shallows, the water lapping gently at his feet, and gazed downstream. The river flows toward the ocean, yet it clings to nothing along its path, carrying only its essence, he said. The elder disciple followed hesitantly, feeling the cool water against his weathered hands as he knelt by the edge. Master, does the river's destination define its worth? He asked, his voice now steady and clear. Buddha shook his head, his expression serene, as he answered, "The river's worth lies in its journey. In every ripple, bend, and stone it touches," he said. The elder disciple closed his eyes, the weight he had carried for so long lifting like morning mist. Buddha waded out of the water, returning to the riverbank where his disciples awaited him with quiet anticipation. He gestured for them to rise, his movements imbued with both grace and purpose. "Let us walk together, like rivers merging, carrying wisdom wherever life leads," he said. The disciples followed, their steps sure and unified, their hearts echoing the river's teachings. The elder disciple paused, glancing back at the flowing water one final time before rejoining the group. His face now bore a tranquility that mirrored the river's own, his heart no longer bound by doubt. Buddha led them down the path, his silhouette framed by the afternoon light, an enduring beacon of truth. The river continued its endless journey, carrying with it the memories of the teachings shared along its banks. Another day faded, but the ripples of understanding grew wider, touching unseen shores in the minds of those who listened. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.